Hey, fellow traveler. Welcome to the Third Eye Awakening podcast, a show where we talk all about spiritual and psychic awakening, magic, the shift from 3D to 5D, star seeds, ascension, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, the universe, the multiverse, the Akashic records, all the good things. I am your host, Amy Belair, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Okay, let's do this. Hi, beautiful soul family. Welcome to another episode of Third Eye Awakening. Today, I have the pleasure of sharing a conversation with you with Katie Moore, whom I met through an incredibly rich and extremely powerful and potent cervix de-armoring ceremony. She was the facilitator for this ceremony, and I don't have words for it apart from like unity and ecstasy. Those are my words. So I just felt like I wanted to bring Katie on and talk to her and share her with all of you because she's so magical and she is so beautiful. And she shared a bit with us during that ceremony about her own journey, and her personal journey and transformation gave rise to her purpose. And she now empowers vulva owners from all over the world to come home to their bodies and reclaim soulful sexuality to live an embodied, empowered, and erotic life. And having checked out, of course, afterwards, I didn't know anything about Katie before. And then we had this ceremony. And like, I'm telling you, I've never been guided. The only other person who's guided me through something so powerful is Ben Carroll with his sound healings. And so I had to check out Katie's social media and her website. And I just feel like, Katie, you are just such an embodiment of the work that you do. And it's truly a pleasure to connect with you and have a deeper conversation. So welcome to Third Eye Awakening.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute pleasure.
I'm really excited to chat with you about all the things that we were talking about before we hit record. But first, let's start with your spiritual awakening journey and whatever that means to you. When I ask that question, I mean like the point at which, whether we already were like this when we came in or we came to this point somewhere along the way, but just the point at which you became aware that there's a more expansiveness to you, to your consciousness, to other people, to this whole thing. There's deeper meaning.
There's definitely a distinct point in my journey where I was crying on the bathroom floor after yet another shitty sexual experience with somebody. And I just had nothing left to give. And I also had nothing left to lose. And I remember crying in the shower and just being like, fuck this. This is not how I want to live my life. This is not who I want to be. And it really just lit this fire. And it ignited into something which I could never possibly have predicted. This wildfire that just burnt through every single aspect of my life. It burnt through relationships, versions of myself. It burnt through what I was doing at the time, as in with my career and my business, the way in which I viewed myself and the world. And it was just profound. But I had to get to a point where I was done. Like I had nothing left, nothing. And that was a single moment that I really knew that change was about to come, because I was really able to surrender to receive it. One of my biggest things is that I like to try to control, which this year of all the years has definitely been the epitome of not being able to do that and the embodiment of total surrender. And that was a catalyst where yoga found me. Literally, I had this beautiful yoga teacher who was it was a passing of a conversation. And then I was connected with her. And that's how my spiritual journey really began. And I started to connect with my body in a way that just became this moving meditation. And it's something that I had never experienced before, this connection, this deep connection to my internal world, because all of my life up until that point, so I was about 24, I'd say 25, potentially 24. Up until that point, I had been so disconnected from my body, from my sexuality, from life. They are all one. Sexuality and spirituality is the same. And that had stemmed from when I was younger. I had experienced sexual abuse when I was 14 on two separate occasions within the same year. And that really led my body to shut down. My nervous system shut down. I wasn't able to cope. I wasn't able to function. And my body literally, my nervous system was like, this is too much. And I just began to sleep 20 hours a day because I couldn't function as a human being. And then I went to the doctors. My mom took me to the doctors. I was 14 years old. My mom took me to the doctors and they diagnosed me with clinical depression. And from there, I went to counseling, and it took me a long time due to circumstances and who the assault was with and those kind of things. It took me a long time to speak up about it. And I continued to go to counseling every single Saturday, 9 a.m. for about 4 years. And I definitely felt like I was getting on a slightly better path, but I had this really addictive personality that I definitely noticed within my lineage. And I was also, although I was speaking about what had happened, and I feel like there's definitely this element of, I believe everybody should go to therapy. It's fucking brilliant. I still go to therapy now, years later, and I'm so grateful. My therapist is actually one of my greatest teachers. And it only kind of unlocks and enables you to access like a certain layer, a certain level, this logical mind. But it's really about dropping into your body, your felt experience, and starting to connect with yourself in that way and getting into the root. Like the feminine is a descent. And this is coming back into your body and rooting down in your body. And what is not resolved from emotional trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma will be stored in your body. Disease is dis-ease within the body. And this was very much mirrored back to me, especially from the sexual side of things, sexual trauma side of things within my womb and within my yoni. So I was diagnosed with level 2 cervical dysplasia, so precancerous cells on my cervix, which I had loop therapy to remove. Whereas now, when I think back, I really had this moment where I had to hold myself because there was so much sadness that I allowed my body to be touched in that way, to be burnt in that way. Whereas I know now the healing power, your own healing power, like you are your greatest healer. And I wish that I had known that back then, but I didn't. And you don't know what you don't know. And you have to really grieve that, I believe. Like there's a lot of grief that comes with this work. You have to grieve that, but you also have to forgive yourself. Give yourself for the things that you didn't know. And it was this disconnection from my internal world was mirrored in my external world with drinking, with drugs, with sex, with my relationship with food. I went through a phase where I would binge eat. It was comfort. It was filling a void. And then I went to the other extreme and I wouldn't eat anything. I would only eat 600 calories and I'd go to the gym and burn 600 calories like every single day. It's laughable now. I laugh because it's the irony of that. I would still drink wine and snort cocaine, but drinking a burger was off limits. It's wild. And these unhealthy patterns were just being reflected back to me, and my lack of self-worth, I had no love for, I didn't even like myself. Loving myself wasn't even something I thought was actually possible or really knew to be true. And then fast forward a couple of years, it went from these unhealthy patterns, from drinking, from drugs, from sex. I actually met someone I believe that everybody is the right person at the right time. I don't believe in right person, wrong time. Everybody is the right person at the right time. And it really shifted things for me. I went teetotal. I was in a monogamous relationship, which up until that point, I had never really been in a I'd always been with people because I was so codependent. And really, I was just looking for love at
Mhm.
the bottom of a bottle, at the end of a line, at the end of a big purge, or between the sheets. I was always looking for love. And I really got to this point where I realized that it was actually within me, and that no one was going to make me feel safe other than me, that no one was going to make me feel held other than me holding myself, that no one was going to love me unless I loved myself. And that's when the yoga found me. And it just really allowed me to access these deeper parts of myself and connect to the divine, to connect to this consciousness, to connect to these higher realms. And even then, I didn't really understand. But I'm not one of those people that really has to understand. The irony, I can actually, it's almost like I can hear people laughing, being like, don't you need to understand? Because this year I've been like, why? I'm sure we'll talk about it with this huge death portal that I've been going on. But even since I was a child, I remember my father saying to me, like, you used to stand in the garden and you used to just stand and stare and you used to speak to people. Like, even as a child, like, I was so deeply connected. And my mother always used to say to me, you're such an old soul. You're just so wise. Things that you couldn't possibly know, or things in people that aren't really seen. And you hear things that are almost the unheard. So it's always definitely been there for me. And then through the yoga, I did my journey just start. It was very slow. It was a very slow journey, like a couple of years of doing yoga. And I was running at the time a property company. And again, I hadn't really got to the root of my trauma. It was very much that my addictive personalities and my coping mechanisms, and there's nothing wrong with coping mechanisms. We all have them. And sometimes they serve a purpose, sometimes they don't. But it's also not to let become victim of shame and let shame come with that. But it went from the alcohol and everything to work. I worked 7 days a week, 16-hour days. And in 4 or 5 years of running my business, I had one day off, which was Christmas Day, 1 year. So all of this energy was just being channeled into something else, into being teetotal, into running a lot, and all of those kind of things. So from the outside, even though it's healthier, in
Mhm.
inverted commas, it wasn't, because it was just like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound, and I wasn't actually getting to the root cause of what was going on in my body. And my body was talking to me. My body was always talking to me the entire time. Your body is always talking to you, not at you, but to you. And it is subtle messages completely throughout the day, every day, until one day it's shouting at you and you can't ignore it anymore. So I had the cervical dysplasia. And then in 2019, I just knew that I had something going on gynecologically. I just knew. I had that intuition, that feeling. And I was on a yoga retreat in Spain. And I watched the sunset and I was listening to Ben Howard, Keep Your Head Up. I remember so, so clearly. And I was like, oof, it's like these words were speaking to my soul. Like the song was written for myself. And if you haven't heard it, go and listen to that song right now. It just, oh, mind blowing. And if you have already listened to it, go and listen to it again, because you won't regret it.
Can you repeat the song again so that everybody who's like anxiously, what was it?
Yeah, Ben Howard, Keep Your Head Up. It is such a beautiful song, but literally I was listening to that and the sun was rising. And I was like, I don't know how or why, but this time next year, I'm going to be a yoga teacher and I'm going to just be living a life that is in alignment to me. And back then, when I look now, that would totally make sense. I would be like, yeah, great. But back then, it was just this huge leap of faith. And when I got back, I went to the doctors and I was diagnosed with a 6 centimeter cyst around my left ovary, surrounded by 4 centimeter cysts. And they said that I had a little bit of endometriosis in the lining of my womb. And even to this day, I just know that it's a lot of it is ancestral. And I know that it's to do with the sexual trauma that I have embodied and experienced. And this is definitely a physical manifestation of that. And of course, being on my left side, it's the feminine. So it's just really interesting to start to create this connection to your body where you start to understand it a little bit more. And it gets to be deep, it gets to be dark, and it gets to be delicious. And the intimacy that you create with yourself is just profound. You get to access and unlock parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed, not just in the physical, but in all realms. And when I went in for my surgery, they told me just before that I was going to struggle to conceive and that this was really going to be a problem with my fertility. And at the time, I was with a long-term partner. I was living on this tiny little island off of England, running a property company, and my heart just sank in that moment because I knew that I was literally about to throw a grenade in my life, that I was just about to change everything. I didn't know how and I didn't know why, but I just knew and I trusted that was the way for me. And I got into the car, and my partner was there, and I hugged him and I cried. And I just knew, I was like, this is it. This is the end of our chapter together. And that I'm going to sell my business and I'm going to move to Brighton, where I'm currently based in the UK. And I did. And it was just it changed my life in an instant. And within weeks of moving here, I found my now partner. We've been together almost 3 years. He put his yoga mat down next to mine at yoga. That's how we met. And yeah, I now do the work that I do, and it's massively been through my own journey. That is why I do the work that I do. And you mirrored back to me before this, or maybe in the beginning of this, you're so embodied. And that's because I've done it. I've been there, and I share from a place of integrity. And I share from a place of, I know that this works because I've done it. And that's why I do it, because I know how the moments where you're crying on the bathroom floor, the ones where your heart feels like it's been torn in two because of the grief, where the pain literally just feels like it's taking your breath away, when the death is just all around you and your entire life shatters to a million pieces. I've been there. I've held myself through it, and I go to my depths so that I'm able to hold you at yours. And I am Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon, and Taurus sun. So like I am all for, I call it like the dirty underworld. That's very much my vibe. And I love it. I am not afraid of the dark. And I feel as a society, we're taught to fear the dark, even as children, checking underneath the bed, keeping lights on. But the darkness is where the gold lies. And when you start to descent into the body, of course, there's darkness. And you are the light which illuminates the shadows. But it gets to be the most beautiful, powerful unraveling, but gentle homecoming.
Oh, there's so much that I want to say in response. Thank you for sharing that journey. Oh, I'm just trying to mentally organize, like, where do I go first? Okay.
Mm.
The last thing that you said, I think I'll go there first because I feel like it's so important, especially in this season. I don't know if you feel it, but this year the veil feels so thin that it's almost not even there. Like the darkness, it's got to be the Scorpio Taurus eclipse axis that's happening. I don't know, but the darkness feels like, on one hand, we can perceive it and experience it, and it's valid to do so. As it's reaching up, it's come back down to where I can keep you there. And on the other hand, it's also, as it does that, I believe that the darkness, the thing that has fallen, the consciousness that has fallen into like a reversal, that really true dark space, is actually, it just fell past like a threshold where it went into a reversal. And now every attempt it makes to return back to source takes it farther away. And it needs our help. So every time it's reaching to pull us farther down, it's actually almost like a drowning person trying to save itself. And we are those powerful beings that can see it and be present with it and transmute it and help it return back to the source where it gets like, I don't know, to me, in my mind, it's like it gets purified and renewed. And but the thing that you said about how the gold is in the dark, that's been my experience too, where I won't share about it at length. This will be your first time hearing about it, but everybody on my podcast has heard about it a million times. But in 2016, I had a son that was born prematurely, and he died when he was 20 days old. And it was so immensely painful. It was like the most heart-shattering experience I've ever been through. And it pulled me down into a layer of darkness that I actually was afraid I would never come back from. But the love that I had for him was greater than the fear that I had of the darkness. And that allowed me to be in that darkness because it was like it had to do with him, if that makes sense. It allowed me to be there. And I have found like it continues to yield gifts to me, like gold, like the most powerful gifts continue to be yielded by my willingness to be in that dark experience. And as you're describing it, I just felt like that's so important to highlight because we wish we could just push the darkness away. And we get trapped in these mental realms of anxiety and like our nervous system shutting down. Like you said, like the body, like it's like we move in polar opposites from the heart. Like we go up into the mind and down into like trauma response in the root and the sacral and the solar plexus. And we stay imprisoned there until we're willing to meet it in the middle in the heart space and be totally present with what awaits us in the darkness. And I think it's only more of us that awaits in the darkness. And then, what else did you say that I wanted to comment on? So many things. But one of the ones I just really wanted to thank you again for sharing that. And while you were sharing, my heart was breaking for the past version of you because I could feel in your description like how the body just, and it's this for everybody, the body wants to be loved too. The body wants to be loved too. And we reject it and we criticize it and we store all kinds of trauma in it. And then we try to numb it out and separate ourselves from it. And I'm so glad that you found your way back to your body and that now you're bringing this gift forward to help others connect with their body who are ready to do.
Thank you. I feel like it's just really something that we experience as a collective as being humans is that we value logic over feeling, mind over body, rigidity over fluidity, suppression over surrender. We have really forgotten our humanness, and we live in a society that takes our humanness away from us. And it's always assumption, always, and sexuality and spirituality doesn't escape this. But actually, that is our greatest gift. Our greatest gift is our ability to feel, to be living, breathing, feeling beings. And not only just to feel, but our capacity to hold. Our capacity to hold when the grief just feels like it is swallowing you up. When the pain feels as though, it is shaking your soul. Like that is incredible because those are the moments when you are in those moments, you want to be anywhere else but there. But that is where the medicine lies. And the ability that you have to go to your depths is the ability that you have to be able to ascend. But you can only ascend as high as deep you are rooted down. And in this lifetime, that means in your body.
That's something that's only come through to me this year as well, as we can't just descend. We have to descend. We have to, like, it happens in equal measure in both directions.
And I feel that there's definitely, as like a feminine being, the feminine is a descent.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of, if you try to just ascend, not only will it not work because it's bypassing, but it's actually a huge disservice to you as a human, to all of your abilities and your gifts and your magic and your medicine, because they are in those moments too. And coming back into the body and going into this descent is really the dark feminine, the dark goddess. The dark goddess is your cervix. And we are, oh, it's our greatest gift. Our womb and our yoni as a woman is our greatest gift. It is the ability to create not only life, but pleasure, but businesses, of missions that mean something to us. We used to lead tribes, we used to run tribes, we used to be the goddesses, we were revered and we were celebrated. And up until about 5,000 years ago, that's when that all started to come crumbling down and the patriarchy started to come in. But it was taking away our power because we are so fucking powerful and we have forgotten that power that we hold. The power that you have between your legs, that force, that sexual energy, that life force is the same force that creates the stars, that moves the ocean's tides. That is the power that you hold within you. So it is time to come back into our bodies to connect with this, to connect with this sexual energy, this life force that ripples through you, that pours through you, in enabling you to become the most empowered, authentic, magical expression of the divine.
Exactly to what you were saying. Before we pressed record, I was telling you about the experience that I had in the cervix de-armoring journey that you led. And there's so much I want to say about that on its own, but I want to highlight you in this. But the I was telling you that it shot me up into 12th dimensional consciousness where I have been able to stay anchored. So I still have I totally live a 3D life, but it shot me up into a vantage point it's so high and it's wide, I guess is the best word. But I think the reason is because I went down, like you led me down into like literally the dark spaces of my body, but also the dark spaces of my psyche and my soul. And it was this, your ability to lead that journey is, I cannot say enough about it because it felt like this beautiful, slow, rhythmic, like slow, low, rhythmic, pulsating, beautiful energy that you guided us through that allowed me to disconnect from that mental space that's I've got these 3 calls today and I have to make dinner later and all the ways that our mind is fragmented and is trying to just stay on top of all the shit all the time. You were able to guide me into a lower rhythm. So it would be like the delta brain waves, for example. You were able to guide me into that space, but in a way that I felt so safe and so held. And like I was able to create that safety for myself and truly surrender. And as I went into that lower rhythm, I think that's what allowed that ascent to happen. And it was just truly transformative for me, truly transformative, Katie.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just smiling. You all can't see, but I just can't stop smiling. It's just felt. I just feel your words, and that's the magic. Yeah, I held this space and I held you with unconditional love. That was your journey, that was your magic, that was your medicine. And I would love to share a little bit about the ceremony, like the cervix and
Yes.
the de-armoring, just so people, perhaps you already have a regular practice, perhaps this is something totally new, but I love to share this magic with the world. So your cervix is located inside of your vagina. So Note that your vulva is the outer labia, the inner labia, the clitoris, the vagina, and the cervix. And we also call it the yoni, late in Sanskrit, to sacred temple. So your yoni is your sacred temple. And the cervix is deep inside of your vagina. Now, depending where you are on your cycle, it will be at different places within you. And it's a little donut shape. So if you press your finger against your nose when you touch it, it just feels a little bit like that on the tip of your nose. And your cervix is the gatekeeper between your vagina and your womb space. It is the dark goddess, the real death and rebirth. That energy, that's the energy that's deep within you, that is really your center as a womb bearer, as a woman. And this part of you is really linked to your self-expression and your ability to let go into your wild nature. And I'm not saying that every vulva owner or woman has a cervix, maybe for medical reasons or whatever it might be, but you don't need to physically have a cervix to connect with this energy here. And oh, so much. Because of where the cervix is sitting at different times of your month, I always encourage you to look at your yoni in the mirror if you don't already have a regular practice. It is so beautiful to meet yourself, to witness yourself in your most beautiful and bare, raw form. And another ritual that I embody is, that I teach, is yoni mapping. So that's just using your finger inside of your vagina to map the inside. Whereas de-armoring is a little bit different. And I also encourage you to, if you feel comfortable, to use a de-armoring wand, usually a crystal wand, depending on where you are on your journey. I have a really beautiful rose quartz one, and that's what I'm currently using, which I absolutely love. But using whatever feels authentic and aligned and empowering for you always. I also have a black obsidian wand, crystal wand, but that can be really intense, really intense at times. So just really listening to your body and honoring your body and knowing that your body knows the way. Like all of the answers that you seek, all of the wisdom that you are searching for, all the medicine that you desire to embody is within yourself. And my invitation when approaching your cervix is always with care and awareness. And less is more, always. And when your cervix invites you to, a lot of the work that I do is, of course, embodiment, but is creating this connection with your body whereby you are always checking in with yourself at all time and your felt experience. So knowing your boundaries, your sacred yes and your holy no, that is so important. And most of us have really been tamed by the constructs of society. And we've been put into boxes and we've been told that we need to be pleasant and pretty. We've had these expectations that have just been shoved down our throat, and we are supposed to swallow them with a smile. And we've really been tamed and shamed if we let our emotions run freely, told that we're crazy, that we're out of control, that we're too much. And the cervix really asks you to break away from these restraints and to reclaim these untamed parts of yourself and to not give a fuck what other people think or say. And that is such a big part of my work. I'm transitioning different archetypes, but I'm definitely really resonate with the wild woman. That's what I love. And there are so many places where you and I have been subdued or suppressed, and not only in this life, but previous lives too. And something we usually do to please our partners, especially sexually, is that we put their experiences, their ego, their pleasure over our own. And connected with the throat and the yoni comes faking orgasms. So the noises that come out of our mouths, if any, during sex, usually mimics the ones that we seem to sound sexy or learned from porn or from films. It's very conditioned. It's also very high. It's usually like a So it comes from right in your throat. And when you are dropping down into your body, when you are
Mhm.
experiencing unadulterated pleasure, it is like a guttural sound. It's like a, oh, it's like that. It's rooted, it's deep, it is fucking delicious. And also by faking orgasms, it's yet another way that we're faking or not truly accessing or expressing our truth or the power that we have within us. So when you harness the energy of the cervix space, you're really accessing these deeper parts of yourself, of your wildness, of your primal nature. And this does not sound pretty by the standards of conditioning that you may have received, that we've received. The noises that get expressed from when the deepest parts of your body, the deepest parts of your yoni are being activated are guttural. They are deep, they are raw, and they are fucking unapologetic. So when you allow yourself to really let go into your fullest expression, unadulterated pleasure can be accessed. Orgasms beyond your wildest dreams can occur. You might cry, you might laugh, you might roar, you might find deep rage. There's also a
Mhm.
lot of grief that comes with this work, especially around sexuality. Grief for our boundaries not being honored, for versions of ourselves, for lovers that we've had to say goodbye to, all of these beautiful and wonderful things. But grief is the element of water, and I'll get to that in a moment. So when you allow yourself to express, to feel, and to move your feelings through you, you can really heal layers of yourself that you didn't even know existed. And if you allow yourself to practice self-expression, for example, in de-armoring or self-pleasure or pleasure with a partnered play or sex, this will intrinsically weave into the confidence that you have in expressing yourself in other areas of your life. And everything that isn't real burns away when you really allow yourself to share your raw and authentic truth. And for me, some of my greatest sexual experiences, and I believe the one that I shared with you, Amy, they really happened when I've been held in this space where I felt safe enough to let go. And safety is the foundation. Safety, boundaries, consent, three of the key pillars that we start to work in at the very foundation that we start to build upon. But safety comes from within. But also having that safety, that connection, that communication with your partner is absolutely key if you are exploring this with partners or lovers, playmates, whatever they may be. But on one particular occasion with my lover, he was penetrating me so deeply that this rage began to bubble up inside of me, like this deep rage. And instead of suppressing it, I really allowed myself to fully embody it. And I breathed into it. I felt it. I toned with my voice. And toning is using sounds, for example, of ooh, ah, those sounds to drop you deeper into your body. And the tears just began to run down my face. And I hit and I screamed into the pillow. And beneath the rage, there were even more tears. And then this big rolling orgasm came in. And it was in that experience that really, by allowing myself to let go into that emotion, and by placing my consciousness and my awareness with the toning and the breathing and the emotional release tools, I was able to release this armor that had been building up within my vagina. And usually when we release armor, blood flows to the sexual tissue and it's increased and the tension spots are released and this pathway opens up to physical, psychological, and emotional healing is able to occur. And de-armoring is a process that focuses on releasing these sexual blockages in eliminating numbness and pain. It's so interesting as I'm talking about it in my throat that all the energy is moving. And you can embody de-armoring by applying pressure through massage and breathing into a point of tension or numbness or anywhere that generally feels a little bit uncomfortable. And once de-armored, the body is able then to experience increased pleasure, wetness. And if you're not already experiencing internal orgasms, essentially, what I want everyone to do is to be able to access the pleasure that you are truly capable of. Your body is the portal to pleasure. Your body has infinite pleasure, and it's literally at the tips of your fingers. And your yoni is highly sensitive to experiences, it can hold on to tension, and not only your yoni, but your entire body. But specifically right now, we're talking about your yoni. And this can really play out in the function or the malfunction of your bodies years later. For me, it was my endo. With my endo, when they went in, they actually found that I had the endometriosis on both my ovaries, my womb, the lining of my womb, and my bladder. And I really, like I said, I believe that is linked to everything that I had gone through, and suppressed anger, shame, guilt, or sadness. It can all congregate in your yoni, in your cervix space, in your womb space, and significantly limit your pleasure potential. And these experiences can include pain during sex, negative cultural messages that we've received, sex before we're really ready and relaxed. How often do you ask your body consent before entering? And I mean entering at any time, from a finger in solo play to a moon cup to a tampon to a partner. It is absolutely fundamental, because once you start to create this connection with your yoni, with your womb space, your sacred portals, you are able to listen to their wisdom. You are able to listen to their messages. It can also include unwelcome comments, abuse, or any unwanted experiences. But it's really through de-armoring that you're supporting the body to let go. And it's in that letting go that you can open up your whole body's energetic pathways, which will really allow your pleasure and your power to pulse through you freely. Yes. And one other part that I'd love to mention is, I mentioned about how my throat feels like it's clearing and there's this energy moving. So on an anatomical level, the throat and your yoni are linked. So your pelvis and your jaw are connected. Your yoni and your mouth are connected. Your larynx and your uterus are connected. And your womb space and your throat are connected. So your vulva cords, your vocal cords, I've got yoni on the brain. Your vocal cords and pelvic diaphragm, it's usually known as a pelvic floor, but I really want to say that the floor, your body does not have floors, right? And they're connected both energetically and physically. So when you were conceived, your mouth and your yoni were actually one. And then you started to form and come out. And they're still connected physically via the vagus nerve. And the structure of your jaw and your pelvis are very similar, with similar tendons, with muscles and tissues. And the tissue that's inside of your mouth is exactly the same as the tissue inside of your yoni. So you can take your finger now, depending on where you are, make sure it's clean, maybe just the mouth if you're in public. But if you put your finger inside of your mouth, you'll be able to feel this really beautiful, soft tissue. And that is exactly the same. And I really encourage everybody to explore their bodies with curiosity, with this playfulness, with this innocence. It's something that we've really lost, especially around sexuality. And if you massage your jaw, your pelvis will naturally relax, which makes it a really, really beautiful practice to embody while you're bleeding, or perhaps you're in your inner autumn and you have any tension in your womb space. And when you start to use your voice, this is what, circling around to faking orgasms, when you start to use your voice, your authentic expression, your transmission, right, your medicine for the world, you're opening up your yoni. And you can start to move this stuck and this stagnant energy. And you are awakening what is really ready to come to the surface, to be witnessed, to be held, to be felt, and to be loved. You are really processing trauma. And I honestly believe that vulva owners have experienced trauma in their life. Again, like I said, ancestral trauma, true. And there's no like big T or little t when it comes to trauma. It's just trauma. It's all real. It's all valid. And it's all in need and worthy of love. And when you start to use your voice, especially with touch and breath, which is very much how I work with the soma, somatics, with the body, with your sacred temple, a lot can come up to be felt and to be witnessed. Sadness, liberation, pleasure, empowerment, frustration, like the full spectrum of your humanness comes to light. And I often see that with myself from my own journey, and often with my clients, is that a lot of rage comes up when we do this work. And I really want you to know that your rage is fucking sacred. Sacred. And I invite you in those moments to use this as your fuel for your feminine fire. So often we're either stopped when our emotions rise up inside of us, and we consciously or unconsciously shut down our emotions. And often if we cry, I know that when I was younger, and I still notice now, if I don't want to cry in public, for example, I just let go now. I'm all in. Just wherever I am, I will cry. We're going to roll with it. But you tend to keep it stuck in your throat. It's like it comes up and it's like you put a little lock on your throat so that it doesn't come up and it doesn't come out. And that gets stuck there. So once you start to access these parts of you, when you start to use your voice in de-armoring, solo play, and self-pleasure, and perhaps de-armoring is not where you are right now in your journey, but using this time during self-pleasure to really explore your body and explore all of this in a way that feels really comfortable and safe for you. But I really believe that this society that we live in, this conditioning has really helped us numb out, and it limits our emotional expression. And it deems our emotions as negative or bad. And I really hate this binary world that we seem to live in. If you come and join my community, you'll realize that I don't do being put in boxes. My world is not black and white. And yet your rage equates to the element of fire. And that energy that you have within you when you feel that rage is really incredible at setting boundaries, at burning down anything that is no longer serving you. That really allows you to reclaim your power. And another thing about rage is that it's classified as a secondary emotion, meaning that it covers up another emotion. And usually the emotion stored underneath rage is grief. And grief is the energy of water. And when water flows, it allows for purification. And when emotions get stuck and stagnant in the body, guess what occurs? Armor. So it's through your sacred waters, it's through your tears that you open up this stuck and stagnant pathways and really supports your life force energy, your creative energy, your healing energy, your sexual energy to flow through the energetic rivers of your body again. And by using your voice, you are changing the world, right? Internally and externally. And when you do this work, you are unlocking, you are reprogramming, you are rewriting the past, the present, and the future. Not only for yourself, but for all women, past, present, and future. For all versions of yourself, past, present, and future. And that's why opening up your throat and toning during sex, even childbirth, that's another really big one, is using these techniques and these tools is really encouraged, because when you open your throat, you open your yoni. And when you open your yoni, your throat and your self-expression opens up too. And the more that you can open up these centers, the deeper you can let go. And when you can let go, when you can surrender, you can really dive into the magic of the body. And that is when heightened, awakening sexual experiences can occur.
And life experiences, right? This is not a totally formulated thought. It's a new understanding that's come to me, but I really don't know how to put it into words. But I really was appreciating, I just finished doing these guided chakra clearings, and they were all super powerful, but I started at the root and I really connected in with how much pain we've endured and how we've received this programming that the body is a liability, it's a prison, it's a heavy, dense place. We don't want to be here. It's painful. There's disease, there's death, there's suffering. And what I could see is, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. Like that has been the experience, but it's not the design of the body. The design of the body is supposed to be this beautiful vessel of somatic pleasure, and like being so deeply not only held within all of creation, so to speak, but being so integrated that in fact every single need that we have is met before we even know we have a need. That's the way it's supposed to be. Like literally, you could take the analogy of a pregnant woman who is like in her full glory, like she's totally healed. She's worked with Katie. She's like, my body, I love it. I'm in alignment. And she's just flowing and glowing. The root chakra is the feeling of being the baby that is in there and is connected so primally to its own body, its mother's body. Every need is met. It doesn't even have to think about its needs. It's so integrated. And then the sacral is this, it's relationship and creation and pleasure and joy and adventure. And it's the beginning of emotional connection, like receiving, as children and babies, receiving that experience of being totally adored by our adults. Just like they can't get enough. They're just nibbling our toes and kissing our bellies. And they're like, to-do list, schmo-do list. There's nothing but you in this moment. And that gives us this whole and healed space from which to engage with the greater experience of life and to understand our creativity and to birth new things, whatever they may be. And then the solar plexus, to complete the matrix of the physical human incarnation, the solar plexus is like, whoa, I have agency. I am the cause that creates effect. I am an actor in this space, and how powerful that is. But meanwhile, our chakras are just like, oh, they're full of trauma. They're just storehouses of trauma. And when we clean them out, like you said, these amazing ascended orgasmic sexual experiences and just like life experiences, like the absolute pleasure of being like, wow, I'm a human. It's so divine. It's so exalted to be a human being.
And I love what you said, like in those moments, there's nothing but you, but in every moment, there is nothing but you. That's what we've forgotten. And we've really forgotten that the most sacred part of being human, the hardest part of being human, from my experience so far, is being present with what is. And when you are really fully present, that is when you are the divine expressing itself. Like your pleasure is spirit pouring through you. Your rage is spirit pouring through you. Your grief is spirit pouring through you. Your ecstasy, your bliss, your wild orgasms, your temperature tantrums, they are all spirit pouring through you and being really present with that. And if you are not present in life, you're missing out. You're truly missing out, because that's really what it is for me to be. Being a spiritual being is really just being present and dancing with life. That's what it means to me.
Yeah, mic drop. It was, you just shared so much wisdom with us through everything that you spoke. It's just so beautiful. And again, like, I invite you all really to check Katie out, because the energy when you're speaking, and I know this because I got to be on one of your journeys, is it truly is in integrity and alignment. Like, you walk your talk totally, and you're just glowing with it. It's beautiful to witness. And then when you are guiding these journeys, you come from a space of not setting up any expectations. Like, you share about your journey so that we can get to know you and we can feel safe. And you share about some of the things that can happen, but you do a really beautiful job of staying in that exploration energy. It's not an objective to get in there and fix the shit so then you can be like better, or so then you can like manifest whatever, your car and your dream job or whatever. It's just the deep honoring of beingness, and
Mm.
exploring the layers of our beingness that we have become disconnected from through trauma and social upbringing and programming. And that on its own is so rich. There doesn't have to be an objective beyond that exploration.
And that's how I really like to approach all ritual, all ceremony, but with life too. No expectation, no goal. Of course, setting intentions is so beautiful, but also remaining unattached, steering your ship in a direction, but being open to have that change its course. And really, that's what I've learned this year more than any other year. This year for me has been the most profound death initiation that I have ever experienced in my entire life. And I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart. Like, death and rebirth is like my fucking default setting. I am so used to it. I'm like, okay, but the Taurus in me really wants to ground down. So I've been learning, like, how can I, because I have the lowest lows and the highest highs. I don't have anything else in between. And I spoke to my astrologer, who is this incredible teacher called Amesh. And he's just this amazing German astrologer. And he was like, basically, I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase. This is your life. This is it. It's gonna be the highest highs and the lowest lows. Like, that's what you're gonna have to do. Because a lot of it, I was like, is this childhood trauma that's coming up? And I've been working it for a long time, especially with my mother wound. And the mother wound is obviously linked to safety, stability, your foundation, your root chakra, which is why so many of the women that I work with experience the mother wound in some way. And it's what I have been unraveling for many years now. And I felt like perhaps this, I now know, really know, like I really feel, I always felt like it was, but I wasn't sure. And I needed someone to be like, it's okay, you're not going insane. Like, you are doing the work, it is paying off, but this is also just your karma. Like, this is your karmic journey. But yeah, this year has been the epitome of that. I started to get unwell in December last year, just like cold, like my body purging. I thought I had a really great year. I ended on this fantastic, fucking exceptional sex magic ritual, which is harnessing your sexual energy to manifest. And I just love guiding people through that. It is hot, it is holy, it's just everything. What I do is marry the dirty and the divine. That is what I'm here to do on this planet. And I started to get unwell, and I couldn't quite shift it through December to January. Got a little bit better, then I got worse again, and then I sat with plant medicine. And that was a baptism of fire. The irony, I sat with it on the Leo full moon. So that's why it was so intense. I love the serendipity of it all. But from there, it just, I believe I was already on the path of like the death and the release and the letting go. But this was just like the catapult, like this just sent me in. And a couple of weeks later, I was in LA and I still wasn't getting any better. It'd been months. And I woke up in Joshua Tree. We were in an RV. We were going on this beautiful sacred voyage. I was supposed to be moving out to LA this month, actually. And this is part of the whole death experience so far. And I woke up and I could barely breathe. Everything was on my lungs. Lungs is connected to grief. That's what it equates to. I could barely breathe. I was coughing. I had bruising all over my ribs because I had actually internal bruising from coughing so much. I cracked a rib. I had a sore throat. My body was in this chronic pain. And I'm not someone who really goes to the doctors. I would radically changed my life since 2019 when I came off the pill. I barely drink. I don't take recreational drugs like narcotics. Obviously, I sit with plant medicine, but that's very different, very sacred. And for me, like part of my journey and who I am. And also, what I want to say about that is that you don't necessarily, yes, these take you into these new realms of ascension. But also, there are so many ways to use your body. For example, I facilitate rebirthing breath work, and that is like being in a plant medicine journey, and that's purely through your breath. So another reason why your body is just this portal to magic. And I said to my partner, like, I need to go to hospital. Like, I'm really unwell. And we were driving and I was like, can you pull over? And I got out and I fell to my knees and I just burst out crying. And I was like, I think I might actually die today. I might actually die. And in that moment, I just had this vision, this memory of when I went to this psychic and this shaman who is, you're going to go into the desert and you're going to just have this huge breakdown in the desert. And that is going to be this really pinnacle point for you. And I can't tell you when, and I don't know how it's going, whatever, but that is what's going to happen. And I was like, whoa. And I was here breaking down and dying on the earth. Like, I was really shedding my skin, shedding these layers. And I went to hospital. I was put on a breathing machine. I was injected with these pain medications. And then when I was released, I was like, I need to go back into nature. And I went back out into Joshua Tree and I spent a couple more days there. And it was the most profound experience I've ever had in my life. Granted, I wasn't on a lot of pain medication, but I connected with my angels in a way that I had never experienced before. Like, my whole entire spirit team were above me. And they were literally just pouring this pink light into me. And I was just lying there and receiving it. And there was these questions, like, if you've ever sat with plant medicine, can ask the medicine, like, an answer to a question that you want to know. And I literally just asked them, like, what is X, whatever. And the answer just dropped in. And it was like this, I had just been blown wide open, like mind, body, soul. And from there, everything started to fall away. I was in LA because I was supposed to be moving out there, like I said, with my partner. And we had agreed, like, marriage was on the table anyway. So yeah, why not? That's fine. And my business was doing amazingly and catapulting. And so I had the marriage that I thought I always wanted. Moving to LA, which was like, on paper, was just mind blowing. Oh my goodness, going to LA, doing what I love there in the Californian sun, new earth, new people. And it just crumbled beneath me in a way that I can't explain. The pain, the grief that I have experienced of shedding of versions of myself, of aspects of my relationship, for a life that I thought that I had always wanted, for having everything at the tips of my fingers to have it felt like it's been taken away from me. I can't lose what is already yours. It is already yours to claim, and it will always be there. It just depends on what timeline. The clients broke their contracts, withheld payments. There was so many things that were just, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? Oh my goodness. And there's lots of those moments and lots of human moments that I needed. I needed that. I needed that humbling. I needed that bringing it back down. I needed to be here. My spirituality, my faith. And before, people were like, you have so much faith. I don't know how you do it. Like, how? And I was like, I don't know. It just comes to me. It's there, but it was shaken to its core. And there was times where I didn't have a spiritual practice or a practice of anything. I didn't have ritual. I didn't sit at my altar. I didn't tend to my altar. There were days where I could barely get out of bed, and my body just was continuing to purge even more. And at the time, I just felt like I had hit rock bottom. And the beautiful thing about rock bottom is that there's nowhere lower you can go.
Mm.
That's it. That's it. And there was this beautiful moment a couple of months ago. So bearing in mind, this was about 7 months of death, like every single day in more ways than I can actually really put into words. And I realized that moving to LA was not what I wanted. Moving to a city is not aligned for me. And that's why it became so hard. That's why it felt like there was this pressure cooker. I had to put a pause on the potential of getting married and no engagement. I had to put a pause on that because I really felt all of my wounds were coming to the surface, and I had to sit with, is this relationship not right for me? And that's why this is so fucking hard. Or is it because this is my wound and they need love and they need attention, and I need to be in sovereignty and integrity and hold myself through this in partnership, holding myself through this? And it turns out it was the latter, but my abandonment wound, my mother wound, my father wound, actually my commitment issues, which were being masked by this almost urgency to get married. It was phenomenal. Like things that I learned about myself in the darkness, in the pitch black, where I just felt like that I would never see light again. I really honestly was like, I don't think I'm ever going to see light. And your rebirth needs the darkness as much as the light, because your magic and your power are being reborn. Your beauty and your wisdom are being reborn. And only from this space can you awaken and honor. Only from this space can you remember and reclaim. And really awakening the dark feminine, which is this Kali energy, the cervix energy, the death and destruction. This dark feminine is simply awakening what's already within you. And it's calling back the pieces and the parts of you that you've forgotten about, and reclaiming your wholeness. And in these moments, although you feel disconnected, you're not separate from life. You've simply forgotten your power, and allowing yourself to really embody this deep feminine current that is running through you. And your separation from this will really create this hunger for your lost feminine. You will forget, and you will have forgotten your essence, your truth, and your wisdom. Right? You've subconsciously been programmed to fear the dark feminine, to fear the death, to repress her, to deny her, to devalue her, and to avoid her. But this journey isn't just about love and light, especially the journey of the feminine. This is dark, it is untamed, it is wild feminine, it is real, it is primal, it's raw. This is pure devotion, like unapologetic devotion. And it is time to burn your hot and holy feminine fire. It is time to reclaim your lost feminine. It is time to give birth to your wholeness. And the loss of connection is what you will crave, that you will be hungry for until you seek this part of yourself. And that's when you'll be reborn.
Wow, What an intense year that this must have been, because as you were talking, even before you said death in more ways than you could put into words, I was thinking like you're probably just picking out like the top 4 or 5 like highlight pieces along a very moment to moment journey of
Mm,
just experiencing, not just witnessing, but also experiencing the matrix that you had created for yourself, not the false matrix, just a
mm.
matrix of reality, disassembling and having to access the faith that something else is rearranging. But like to our instinct when we're embodied in our wounds, our instinct is to panic and try and make it work and figure out what is going wrong and fix it. And I'm sure you had those moments because it's a part of the human journey to have that anxiety of being like,
Mm,
what am I doing wrong? What do I need to
mm.
fix? And that's why surrender is such a powerful, it's so powerful. It surrender sounds like weakness, but it's actually power, because to be present in that and just let it yield to you from the greater field of wisdom that it's happening from takes a lot of inner strength, a lot of inner strength. And do you feel like you're still in the rebirth, the death and rebirth phase? Do you feel like you're starting to see glimpses and glimmers of what is taking form? Or do you feel like you're still in the place where it's invisible to you, but you are predominantly riding on that faith?
So, firstly, surrender means to relinquish, to wave the white flag, to let go and to give up. And what a beautifully divine word. A word that we should use at every single chance we have. And it has this connotation and this energy behind it. And I don't mean passive surrender by just, I have no control, giving my power away. It's this, okay, I've got me, got me. Whatever happens, I've got me. And
Yeah.
that's what I really learned and embodied this year more than ever. I feel as though where I am currently, feeling in my body, I feel as though there has been more death than I realized, like on a conscious level. And I feel as though I'm standing in the abyss and I can hear the crackling of the fire of the embers beneath me, beneath my feet and all around me. I can feel the warmth of the fire of everything that's burnt to the ground. And I can also feel the roots that are burying down into the earth and the seeds that I have planted in this fertile soil. And I feel like I'm in a space of just infinite possibilities. And I'm in full receivership of that. I feel like I'm not trying to control or fix or manipulate or change where I am or who I am or the outcome of whatever this is. And I don't know. This week especially, when I've been in meditation after, I say thank you for this journey, because even though I'm in this space of learning who I am again, like I'm not the same woman who held that ceremony for you. And that wasn't even that long ago. I am not the person I was 2 weeks ago, let alone 2 months ago or 2 years ago. And I'm really in this space of finding out who I am again. And that feels so exciting because it feels just infinite possibilities of deepening this intimacy with myself, with my partner, with my friendships, with life. Yeah. I have no idea what's coming, but yeah, I know it's going to be just, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Amazing. I mean, there's no words. It's just this feeling. I feel so grounded in it. I feel really anchored in my body. I feel really anchored in my intuition. more than ever before. I really allowed my intuition to guide me on this journey. I've made decisions that don't make logical sense. I've made decisions that people don't understand, that people judge, and I couldn't give less of a fuck. Because I know. And this work that I do is, like I say, I marry the embodied and the ascending. And that's the sacred self. And I trust that.
I feel like you just like this whole entire episode was you just bathing us with so much divine feminine wisdom. And I feel like you are such a priestess. And I don't want to put an archetype on you that you decide which archetypes resonate with you, but you hold the mystery of the feminine so beautifully.
And I think that the feminine is the mystery. How can you like soften and surrender and just put one foot in front of the other and walk into the divine mystery? That's it. That's the sacred path of the feminine.
That's it. And it's that simple, and it is that
fucking hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, Katie, thank you so much for everything that you shared in this episode, and just for doing the work that you're doing through your presence in life. Like, it's beyond, I can tell this is what magnetizes me to you, is it's beyond the format of a business. It's the way you be. It's just the way you be. The way that you be is recoding and healing this realm on so many levels. And so thank you for showing up.
Thank you for witnessing me, and thank you for allowing me to share my journey and my truth here in this space. And for everybody who's listening, thank you. Thank you for listening.
And can you share with us where the listeners can find you and anything else that you might want to share with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can come and hang out in the pleasure playground. That is Instagram. And that is at I am Katie Moore. And I am holding a retreat underneath the Italian sunshine, the 1st to the 8th of April 2023 in Italy, in Puglia, called The Temple. And this is 7 days of sacred ceremony. So every day we will be joining in sacred ceremony for cacao, embodied movement, breath work, energy healing. We'll be exploring sacred sexuality practices such as de-armoring, breast massage. This is really a space where time and limitation do not exist. It is about coming together as a co-created community to learn and to heal and to grow with and from one another. This is a early morning, walking with your bare feet in the grass, feeling the sun on your skin, embodying pleasure, guilt-free type of space. With embodying pleasure in every single way, from moving your body to eating delicious food, to nourishing yourself, mind, body, and soul, and connecting with maybe your soul family. That's really what it's all about. It is soft, it's surrendered, it's sensual. So if you feel called to join, then yeah, you can reach out either via Instagram, or my website is katiemore.co. And yeah, come say hi. I always love to connect. I really do spill the taboo tea. And I've also got a podcast, Undressed, where yeah, we talk all things pleasure, sexuality, healing, love, relationships, and absolutely everything in between. And the name speaks for itself. I am naked.
I love it. I didn't realize you had a podcast. So that's definitely going on my playlist now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's relatively new. It came out last month, but I'm absolutely loving it. And yeah, there's just so much medicine in it. Yeah, so come say hi.
Wonderful. Definitely check Katie out. If you haven't gathered this already, I am a big fan of Katie. Thank you so much again for being here. And thank you, beautiful listeners, for your time and your attention. You know that I value you more than my words could ever say. I hope that this episode was full of medicine and magic for you. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are, and I will catch you on the next episode. Hey, my beautiful friend. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Third Eye Awakening. If you like what you heard and you want to go deeper, then head over to my website, amybelair.com, and check out my store, which is full of my past programs, courses, modules, masterclasses, light codes, etc., that are powerful and they are potent and they pack a punch. Not gonna lie, they are here to support you, accelerate you, and activate you in your spiritual awakening and psychic development journey. And/or if you want to stay in my most current, vibey, live energy, then I suggest that you head over to the Patreon and join me there. At the lowest tier level, which is only $5 a month, you get a secret bonus episode for every Third Eye Awakening episode that goes out. You also get a weekly energy report and light language activation, and you get a new moon and full moon emancipation transmission. So those are some fun ways to play, and I'll just remind you that I always have live programs going, so keep your eyes on my website, on my social media, and here on the podcast to find out what is the most current offering that I have. Either way, I love having you in my world, and I hope that I get to meet you and work with you soon.